Welcome back, everyone, to this week's Footnotes. Today, we're joined, of course, by Amanda. You may know her a little bit better as Gwynwyn Granfear, dwarf of the Vorox Empire.
Who is not short.
Okay, we're gonna start off fighting.
She is not short. She's just fun size.
I don't have any of this. I'm gonna put this down for now. Let's actually start, Amanda, with this.
Mm-hmm.
Gwynwyn is a dwarf.
Yes.
And dwarven characters, at the very least in our setting, as well as most, are quite short, dwarfish. They're a little bit shorter than the average human in this setting.
The average is between like 4 and 5 feet, I believe, and
Yes.
just like
A 5-foot dwarf is a
very tall.
massive.
Yeah.
4 foot would be a pocket prince of a dwarf, but we'll get to that a little bit later. You actually chose to make your character both at the bottom of the dwarven height, but also give her armored heels effectively, which
Yes.
we'll put a picture of that, of your actual Hero Forge miniature on our Discord. Your character, you gave your character like not anxiety.
A complex.
A complex,
Yeah.
thank you.
She's basically Edward Elric in the I'm not short in complete denial of being short.
Oh, she's a very different kind of alchemist.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Just a little.
Absolutely.
You know, she has all of her limbs, at least, currently.
Currently, we could update that. The last artificer I had in the campaign, I did in fact take one of his limbs.
That is
Although,
true.
that was actually Connor who did it.
Technically Cola's fault. Actually, I think technically this
Technically
one's fault.
my fault, because I did try to kill him.
Yep.
He shot you with a gun.
Yeah, no, not me as Finland, me as an enemy. Tried to kill him. It was the Dorloy fight.
Yep.
Now, you were correct.
Yeah.
Now, we have, we kind of dropped into it, but let's just really quickly talk a little bit about, or just kind of getting us started. For those of you who are new, welcome. You're looking great today. Honestly, good job. You got, like, is that a new outfit? Maybe a new haircut? Whatever it is, it's absolutely killing it. Hey, I'm going to shamelessly flirt with the audience as long as they let me.
Okay. All right.
They haven't
Additionally,
stopped you yet,
so Footnotes, as some of you may know, is our D&D aftershow. We're going to be talking about this week's session of Stories to D4, session 13, where our party has had some challenges. They've overcome some. I would say this is a session filled with success. I think it's fair to put it that way.
Yeah. We killed a giant. Or not
Whoa.
killed, but...
You did. We know what you mean. You defeated a giant. Absolutely. And now, let me go ahead and grab this just for my convenience here. So this session kind of started off, you were still working as you were doing contract work for a local mercenary band, the Defiant Smiles.
Yep.
We mentioned last time here on Footnotes that was not at all what the players had thought they were going to be doing. But by the end of this quest, more than one of you seem keen on potentially even joining them. What are your individual thoughts on that?
This is a thing formed by me as a player, less as my PC. I want to join a mercenary band as Victoria. Would love to join a mercenary
Warrior Princess
band.
Victoria, it is known.
So I am heavily, there's always going to be a bit of yourself inside of your characters. That's just how it works. And I'm sorry to Ismini, but I'm pushing her personality aside, and we're going to be in a mercenary band.
I thought about that, and I maybe did some whispering with one of our players here. I'm not going to say who, but hypothetically speaking, if Ismini saw that Elle wanted to do this and was going to put herself into danger, is that an excuse for...
An excuse for Victoria to let Ismini go through with it. Or
That's-
an excuse for Victoria to not feel as bad about taking what I have defined as my character and stamping it down so that I can join a mercenary band.
Let no one say that we're purists. I actually think it's okay, and maybe even just only positive, to allow for sometimes personality shifts, not breaks, just minor shifts that lead to more fun.
Right.
If everyone ends up wanting to go and fight monsters for Mr. Thor as contract work in the Defiant Smiles, go for it.
Right. My thing is, this is that place where the "it's what my character would do" argument starts to like creep in and be like, well, I don't really think that as meanie on our own would just say let's go join a mercenary band, but I as a player want that opportunity to do that because it'd be fun. And then my fear would be if I were to act out my character going, I really don't want to do it, guys, like this isn't my line of work, and like was really
What if you persuaded the party against it?
What if I persuaded the party not to not do it? Now I've gone and argued against the thing that I as a player want to get to do. Now there have been times where I've argued against something, and I'm so glad that I lost that fight. Very notable times in my D&D career so far where I was just dead wrong about something, or I argued against something kind of like, okay guys, under the table a little bit like, hey, you know, I'm actually into this, like let's go do it. But like there have been times where I've argued against things and either we haven't done them or we did go along with them and it was so much fun. So I don't really want to play the spoil sport in that way.
Sure.
I think if it's like, oh, should we go like flip over all the apple carts and else, I'd be like, no, let's not do that. But
there are so many. Do you really want to fight Big Apple?
No.
Like, Big Apple has so many... How many mercenary bands are employed solely by Apple vendors? Honest Apple merchants.
Honest Apple merchants, great. That's still
The players will never get leave me be for the honest.
No.
But honest merchants? No.
No, not at all.
For Gwynwyn, it's more of a, she needs money. Being an alchemist is very, very expensive. And we just got paid 600 gold pieces each for this. And she's like, very quick way to make a lot of money. Sounds good.
You received a small bonus for how swiftly you completed it, and for finding out that you happened to evade the Ashen League of the Triumphant. Given that, you made 25 gold pieces. 25 gold to your PC 6 months ago was months of labor. That was an incredible amount of wealth. Now, your family isn't... They're commoners, but they're not poor.
Yeah.
And as such, you've held gold pieces. Your purse has contained gold. But it's because your mother's a skilled craftsman. Your wealth, you made 625 gold pieces in a day.
It's a lot to anybody.
Yeah.
Most
Except for Al.
people, the average person, so like half the population makes 3 silver or less a day.
Yeah.
And normally not literally in silver, but typically in
copper.
other ways. Yeah. In copper, or in rice, or in
Yeah,
wheat,
or in
bread.
like an IOU basically, where it's like you get your money when you've accrued.
Yes.
The silverbacks thing too still bothers me a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the silverbacks. I'm sure they'll never come up again. We haven't talked about we haven't talked about the O'Briens or O'Brien's benefactor in a while, and I'm sure we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point though about jobs.
Ooh, we'll get to this message here in just a moment. What were you saying, Victoria?
I was just thinking about the whole adventuring and jobs and like in every campaign there's like a slightly different way you get quests, and as time goes on that changes, and so like we're kind of in the quest board phase of our adventuring career. And,
Yeah.
And having a
We didn't have a lot of that last time.
No, we didn't. We kind of did it on our own sometimes where we said, let's go check and see if like the mayor or the town square has got like a notice board, but that kind of falls off.
Yeah.
And this would be a way to establish, because I love the side quest. I love it. I want to go and like rescue a cat from a tree. That would be so
Help
much
an
fun.
old lady across the street.
Right. I think it's so much fun. But it's one of those things that's how you make money as an adventurer. That's how you do things. What would we theoretically be doing other than being mercenaries right now as a group? We are a group of 5 people who work together pretty well.
We're good at fighting.
We all can fight, and we all can work together to a decent degree. What else would we be doing is really what my mind comes down to in the end. Like, we're gonna have to have jobs, or else we're not gonna be able to stay here. So practicality, truly. And then again, as a player, I love the quest board and a guy who hops down out of his little chair and talks to us about quests.
Plus, we get to see a Dawn more often.
That's true.
We get to watch
Oh, you
Dawn.
watch Clella.
Die.
Oh,
Every time.
let's make fun of them at the moment. Clella cannot handle my Adon voice.
I love it.
And I've never... What is the opposite of regret? I've never not regretted something so hard. Because Adon, our dear surfer boy, he's a lot. Clella can't handle it. I got more things here, but I actually want to talk about here. Chubas had made a fantastic point in chat. All I'm hearing is if I want to make it big, I should become an adventurer. It is absolutely true. Now, don't mind the mortality rate. No, don't worry about that. Dragons, mostly myth. Truly, don't worry about that. Oh, what's that? You're 10s in all stats and 8 in one of them? Seriously? What even are stats? They're just numbers.
They're just numbers.
But realistically, that is a good point. And something when I was doing my world building early on, I really wanted to wrestle with, or I really had to wrestle with, was if adventuring makes so much more money, why is it worth it? And you kind of have two options. Why don't more people do it? Mm-hmm. The options are adventuring isn't as lucrative as it is in the default, as I've done it in the past, or adventuring is very, very hard. And so I'll let you know, tip the hand. The second one is what we went with here.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that the idea of doing it with the mercenary group as well, I think does play into that first part too, though. It can be hard. If you're untrustworthy, people aren't going to hire you. If you're doing things
You get hired by the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
They have one active mercenary.
Right. No, but my point being more, to a degree, if you're doing it in a society that's as structured as Elt is, you're going to have these instances where maybe you won't be able to get certain jobs because people don't know you well enough, or you've done something unscrupulous in the past and so people don't trust you with, protecting a manor because you're going to go learn the ins and outs and then steal from it later.
Or we have people who are racist and therefore don't want the half-drow helping.
You don't want the half-drow helping. There's going to be
You are going to have some doors that are going to get slammed in your face, or rather, Connor, as Laurentius, is going to have some issues getting through certain sort of... There's going to be some skill challenges, really, to push through that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems there. And then, the joke has always been that, nobody with, a happy life goes adventuring. Everybody's
Everyone's traumatized.
Nobody with 2 kids and a loving husband, and they visit their family every Saturday for a big meal, and they all go worship the Morning Lord together, and
no one has
healthy
this
goes
is a hypothetical. No person who, let's say, has a father who makes really good slow cooked meats for them on the regular goes off and adventures. Speaking of which,
I feel called out.
We had another interesting question here in the chat from one of our VIPs. Can I be a wizard that conjures gold?
That reminds me of Bella.
It reminds you of Bella. That is a very good point. So to answer the long and the short, the short answer is yes, but actually no. There are ways in D&D 5th edition to create facsimiles of gold. You can create things that appear to be. So illusion magic is one common way of either making one thing look like something else, using sort of a light kind of magic, or alternatively, actually performing transmutation to turn one thing into another. Now, transmuting into gold is notoriously difficult.
You can also just use prestidigitation as a cantrip, but people will look at your money and realize it's not real, generally speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of the ways to create a gold piece have intense limitations. Some of these are from a mechanical standpoint to avoid your characters breaking the wealth level, making too much money. If you were to have robbed the Defiant Smiles, and let's pretend there was 1 million gold. There's not 1 million gold, but let's say there was 1 million gold there. You earning 1 million gold, there's only two things that can be. Either I've made a mistake and I need to fix it, my campaign's got a bug, or this is going to be a main huge quest of what happens when low-level people obtain so much wealth and become targets of much bigger entities.
Right.
For wizards, they get abilities, those minor abilities like prestidigitation to create palm-sized amounts of gold, trinkets. You can have 3 effect at a time?
Yeah.
And what happens after your duration runs out?
It disappears. Right. So the stacking of using some of these abilities, like any illusion magic, anything like that, it's going to have the duration on it.
Yep.
So now you're talking about stacking spell slots. You could use, which actually there's a spell that I really want to get. I think it'd be fun. I want to take Alter Self because I kind of want to Halloween, if you haven't seen it yet, really made me want to be able to grow a
Don't
tail.
If you haven't checked out the Halloween one-shot, I absolutely recommend it. It's we had a lot of fun. It was our first time doing a one-shot for an audience.
And to pitch it better, it's
Please.
set in Eltz with some of the upper echelon of society in Eltz, so you're getting to know a little bit more about the city that we're currently in and what the powers that be are doing while we're here.
Plus, it's our first time having a guest on stream.
Yeah.
We did. We had Jen, who, I've been talking to her just a little bit. Now it's been a minute, but last time we spoke, there's a lot of interest in having Jen on again, both from some people I've talked to online, with Jen herself, and I've heard we have a player or two who's a big fan of Jen. So we'd love to have that happen again. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the city, our one shot is a great way to try us out. And
It's all
although
contained.
if you're here, you should check out all of our sets.
Right, if
They're
you're
fantastic.
already here with us, then you probably know a little bit more about us and maybe have already seen it. But it's definitely a fun romp. But it's a good thing to have the society that we're in right now and have this limitation on our ability to generate wealth. While it'd be fun to be able to just create gold out of nowhere, we had problems in our last campaign with a girl who could create sometimes real and sometimes fake diamonds, and she was very young, and we had to keep her alive.
Now, in Dungeons & Dragons, why are diamonds important besides just being money?
Resurrection magic.
Resurrection magic. In order to resurrect somebody, you have to have a diamond of significant wealth. I think the cheapest one is 300 gold pieces worth of diamond.
Yep.
And then as it continues on, you get to like 1,000 gold and higher and higher.
I think Revivify is 300, Resurrection is 500.
Is it 600
Or Raise Dead is
500?
They
a lot of
range
wealth.
somewhere in the realm of 50 to eventually 10,000 gold pieces worth of diamonds. And since diamonds in our setting are exceptionally rare, being mined from only 2 active diamond veins, there's only 2 locations in our continent that have access to diamonds. Huh?
For a little bit there was only one.
For most of history, it's been just the one. But a couple decades ago, we did find a second set of them. We'll have to go check that out at some point.
Yeah.
Learn a little bit more. But because diamonds are rare and have this magical effect, we have this kind of it's a self-fulfilling loop where diamonds are important, and so they are coveted. They're coveted, so they become more valuable, and it's very difficult to get diamonds.
And that's that thing again, really quickly on the diamond point too, is that every table, it feels like, has a different way that they handle resurrection magic. So some people may, if you've watched Critical Role, you've probably seen how they do their resurrection, where it requires multiple steps in this whole process.
It's a skill challenge.
It's a skill challenge to try to bring somebody back, as well as having the material components, but you can go to a market and buy diamonds in a lot of places. In our setting, our limitation is that it's very hard to get your hands on diamonds. So anytime we find one, we are more excited because this is a chance of us keeping a friend alive or bringing a friend back.
It is one of the only. It might even be the only material component for spells that we've altered the price of. So those spells that have cost X gold worth of diamonds, that value is not correct effectively in our setting due to diamonds being so tightly controlled by magical organizations, governments, kingdoms. People don't like to sell diamonds.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if we find a diamond in session, we will all freak out because, again, that's what we can do.
Freaking out in the session. Did anyone freak out this last session? I think we need to talk about what happened, Victoria. Are you now,
okay now?
I'm going to ask you, since we're live right now, are you comfortable talking about your emotions from last time?
I'm fine talking about
Let's get in there. So we had an NPC arrive from a previous campaign, Finjan Lucksmith, a dwarf from the dwarven kingdom of Gorbarim. You exploded when I said his name.
Okay, because you had led all these little... Okay, Finjan Lucksmith, the Fearless Forge, you had the little lucky forge, and I was just like, okay, we're going to a dwarven forge, it's got the word luck in it, got some gold on the outside. I cried, I will admit. I did shed a little tear because as a player, we had this, and I went and I found this in my notes. Actually, I'm using the same book from before. I found in my notes whenever we had rescued him, my previous character, real quick story, my previous character's older sister went to go try to find this boy, and we had to go rescue them. It was a really fun fight, too.
Yeah, so essentially there was your sister went to find someone who was missing and was the
Little boy.
son of a notable blacksmith.
A young dwarf boy.
Yes. He's all grown up.
He's all grown up, but
He was only, what, 70 years old
He's
before?
only, yeah, he's about
Oh, so
70.
he's only, I had his age a little bit off here. My apologies.
But it was this experience of, we had this moment with this character, and I didn't have in my notes where I wrote to myself and then wrote that I finished the task of sending a letter off to go and like check and see how he was doing, because I didn't have magics like sending that I could just send a message and say, hey bro, how you doing? Are you feeling better, kid? At the time. So like I sent a letter to go like check in on him, and as a player, when your decisions that you've made in a session can come back years later. This was pre-pandemic.
This was pre-Amanda in our
Jake
games.
and I had no idea who this person was. Victoria was just crying, and we're like,
Oh great! Why? Like what happened this time? I'm a notorious crier in sessions.
So was Clella, though, to be fair.
I do remember an early session that y'all had to deal with me yelling and crying at somebody for a little while, which was great because that got very in my feelings. We do have a professed elf player at the table, and I'm trying to break out of the fact that I would only play dwarves. So I'm sitting here living vicariously through Amanda.
Calling it right now, within the next 2 PCs, Victoria will be a dwarf.
I will.
next PC. Just the next one's gonna be a dwarf.
I already have my next PC blacklisted.
We don't need to talk about that right now. That's gonna be we'll have that on a special footnotes, I think.
You don't want to kill his meaning because you know I'm going to try to play that character.
Oh gosh. But so, why? I wanted to bring up Finjan Lucksmith.
Yeah.
So you met Finjan during that rescue mission. You were hired by his father, Verderon, to go find his missing son and your sister at the time. But coming back now, having this character kind of arrive, it was exciting to see your new dynamics. Clella reached out wanting to become his apprentice, learn and rather restore her skills as a blacksmith that way. Yeah. You were so... Ismini was having a hard time, but being there wasn't super tied, but Victoria was in it.
Right. Ismini would recognize the name because of what her station is and what she's supposed to do. Would recognize it. Probably, potentially would, again, higher families up in the hierarchy. I wouldn't recognize all these lower-born families, but he's from a family that's pretty notable in Gorberine. Pretty dang notable. So I would assume that there would be, to some degree, I would recognize it. More that I'm mad at Elle for telling, like, hi, my name is Lilia, nice to meet you. This is my entire backstory. Hi, you want to stab me? Like, that's what my fear is.
Elle did attempt to lie about her name. Instead of saying Lilia Arendral, the name of her family's name, the Arendral clan, she actually took the name, one of her mother's maiden names, Oblivy. Unfortunately, Delilah, Elle's mother, lived under the next to the mountain where the Finjan's family is from, and grew up purchasing things from their smithy.
Right.
So
really, really great choice there. Like, okay, here's the thing, right? Okay. I'm gonna get sassy.
Oh, please do.
I'm gonna get sassy. If you are the child of 2 famous adventurers who were not married at the time of their adventuring,
lie.
Don't use the other mother's last name.
Yeah, Delilah's just as famous.
Delilah is very famous because we did some things to make Delilah very well known to people.
Delilah
intentionally, publicly.
Ooh. Next time we have Clella on, they should discuss a little bit why Delilah made a concerted effort to be remembered by the people of Gren.
Right. So, like, maybe don't pick the parent's last name who is, like, intentionally trying to be famous. But, like, not, like, in a bad, like, gross way being famous, but just, like, the person who, like, is making sure that their mark on history is known.
Oh, no, we're all Delilah stans.
I'm a Delilah stan, it's okay.
We've officially hit we've got to my second bullet point. So this point,
I just wanted to say one more thing about it.
Oh,
though.
please do.
Again, as a player to players out there, and as a player to DMs out there, getting to see the actions that you've taken in a campaign come back either later in that campaign or in another one, especially if you're playing in the same world, with these NPCs you've made these connections with, is potentially some of the most powerful moments that I've had in D&D. I know that we didn't have a lot of time with him when he was a kid, but we went out and we saved this boy, and I checked back in on him on numerous occasions. I even went
Over
back.
the next few years in universe, yeah.
And then to just go to a random forge in a random city and see him there was such a wonderful moment, because I got closure to a degree as my former character as well, seeing he made it. He's working, he's happy.
He's wearing a picture of Thundolia Hammerborn around his neck.
Yeah, he may or may not have something going on with my sister, but we'll see. But it's one of those things that, as a player, it makes such an impact to see your mark on the world that you're playing in get left behind and see it grow and turn into whatever it becomes. And this could be negative too. We've definitely made some decisions that aren't great, and we've had that come to bite us. But
Silas's backstory.
Silas's backstory is a way that we got bit, and we'll talk more with Jake about that one. But
I think
we
talked
see
about
that.
We talked about briefly. I think it's okay to reference
Okay.
here. Just to give that contrary example here, Silas is the result of his backstory has a tragedy in it. His home, where he originally grew up with his parents, was destroyed by a blue dragon. That was something we talked about a little bit, especially in our recap once we arrived at Eltz. And that attack by the blue dragon was a quest that the last campaign had an option to go after and declined. The party didn't go. They heard about the dragon, didn't go, and had to go face other important threats. They didn't make a wrong decision, but because of that, Caldeem was destroyed. Caldish Wine being the inciting incident that brought Gwynwyn and Silas to Eltz.
And that is one of those moments every time Silas's backstory gets brought up, where we're all like, ooh, we chose not to go save your family.
We killed your parents!
So it's, as a player, getting that just is so much of D&D for the DMs. There's so much information going on behind the scenes, but if those moments are found where you can put in that little reference to something that happened in the past, your players will react and appreciate, I think.
It makes sure smaller actions have more weight sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like a small moment of kindness sometimes can come back and you're like, oh wow.
I think
really
I'll get
matters.
Clella to cry when if those the folks you met in the Weeds, the grandmother and the grandchild ever come back.
That was me.
Oh, was it you? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
You won't make me cry though.
I'm over there. I can't recognize people from this direction. See, the thing is, Clella normally sits to my right, and so since you're to my right now, you're basically the same person. It's fine. You're the same.
Oh.
Because you're two to the right. Perfect. We figured it out.
Wonderful. I figured it out.
I have a question we got from one of the viewers actually, who wanted to ask. Now it's a rules question, and a very fair one at that. They accurately noticed that something we're doing is not rules as written. Don't worry, my players aren't being filthy cheats. We are simply using a bit of homebrew here. So in 5th edition, when you receive, the question was relating to dark vision and perception and having the help action applied and stacking forms of advantage and disadvantage. Now, rules is written, if you go check out your PHB, when you have advantage on a roll and disadvantage, regardless of how many things grant you one or the other, those rolls are supposed to be done flat. This can be a good thing if you're worried about rolls having advantage or disadvantage too often. An excellent rule. Now, in our game, as you both know, we don't play with this. We instead allow these things to stack. So it's 2 sources of advantage and one source of disadvantage would result in a roll with advantage.
Yeah.
How do the two of you feel about this?
I much like the way we prefer the way we do it.
Yeah. I appreciate it because I will use my resources to try to do things in a strategic fashion. I understand that because of the way we play with flanking, we can be flanked. I understand that because of the way advantage and disadvantage works, that the enemy will do this to us. We have a DM who can balance these things and control the combats with all these different minis, all these different people going on. We've done very large scale fights, and he's been able to handle us.
Well, you're very
throwing
sweet.
I'm gonna brag on you a little bit, but throwing all these different things in. As a player, I like that I can use my class abilities, use my spells, work with my party, and try to be a little bit more strategic to make it so that we may have an advantage. Especially in a situation where we're outnumbered. Yeah. It feels really good to say, okay, I've cast a 2nd level spell, right? I have 3 familiars right now. I can send 2 or 3 of my familiars off to go help other people.
Oh, that smells so good.
Right, and if we didn't play this way, I'd be less inclined to cast it or have even taken it as one of my spells, because there would be so many instances where what I would want to do with it wouldn't be helpful.
Okay.
It may be able to give us a flat roll, which is fine, but a lot of other people may have abilities that can give them advantage in some way, shape, or form, so I could try to stack or try to help out that way, but I'm getting the chance to give an extra edge to my team, and as my build of Ismini is going, I want to be able to help people with my character. I kind of want to do a little bit of toolkit, like solve problems in different situations. And so why would I cast a spell and use it if I couldn't even the odds or amplify her chances more?
I go back to my previous character, Juswin. She had multiple sources of advantages.
A paladin, so melee, swinging big swords.
And then she had a halo that gave her advantages against evil creatures. She was a level 20 paladin, so always under the protection of good and evil. And there's a few other things that would just give her advantage. And so I think not having the stacking rule would have really made that very sad. And a lot of my class advantages would have been like, well, I guess that doesn't matter, me taking this level in paladin.
I think we technically determined when you hit 20th level that you realized these two things here always give me advantage. My super artifact sword and my 20th level capstone.
Yeah.
If we didn't have stacking, you wouldn't have had a capstone.
Yeah.
It's one of those places where I can understand that combats would be simpler for the DM and for the players if we didn't have to worry about stacking advantages. But if you feel like it's within your ability to do, it's a really fun way to reward the players for thinking strategically.
If you're finding an issue with this, if your players are getting if your players are receiving advantage or disadvantage too often, it might actually be a good excuse to take a look at what the source of that is. So one example, and this is something that some of these are DMs to solve, some of these are players to solve. If you notice your players are getting disadvantaged due to lighting, they're traveling in the dark too often, that's absolutely something I don't think you as a DM need to solve for.
No.
There are dozens of ways first level PCs can resolve lighting issues.
You can purchase items, you can literally hold a torch.
There are multiple cantrips that solve the problem.
Buy lanterns that you just place down.
Light the building on fire.
Truly, if you have Fireball, you should never have a single lighting problem.
Or Firebolt. Just
Yeah.
burn a piece of...
Victoria doesn't like your weak fire.
No,
She
you have
wants
to cast
the big
Fireball
fire.
or Bust, I'm sorry.
Okay. We're in a wooden house right now. Let's not burn that down on the 3rd floor.
I didn't ask how tall the ceilings were. I cast Fireball. That's where I've been many times.
Yeah, and it's a good spell. And maybe once you hit level 5, we'll be seeing some fireball magic from the party.
Yeah.
Now, do you happen to
will.
remember what level artificers get access to 2nd level spells?
I think it might be 6th level.
I think you're correct there. It's somewhere. It's 6 or 7. Now I'm curious. So we've seen artificers before, and we talked about this in the past in much more of a supportive role. You've currently been playing Gwynwyn much more as a damage dealer.
Yeah.
Are you having a good time blasting?
Oh yeah, and I'm looking forward to next level actually.
Ooh, tell me the goodies.
Because I get a +5 to all my firebolts and my acid splashes.
You add your intelligence modifier to cantrip damage.
Yep.
Okay.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So
I
fun
was all
fact.
like, ooh, level 5. I can roll 2d12 when I cast Toll of the Dead.
Listen, Miss
scared.
Fireball.
And healing. Healing magic also gets my intelligence. So like casting healing word, now I get to do +19 minimum. Or not +19, plus
Is this from
10
Alchemist or from Artificer?
Alchemist.
Okay, I'm curious. I want to know the name of that feature because that's really cool, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more in a minute.
Yeah, I've never played an Alchemist, an Artificer at all, and we had an Artificer at the last table, but it was much higher level and not an Alchemist.
And he was a shoot gun.
Yeah, he has guns and
his
robots.
name was Vander, and if you're interested in learning more about him, I recommend you check out that Halloween one-shot.
We circled back.
We're putting homework out there for Jake.
Yeah. Jake, watch it. Jake.
Oh, Alchemical Savant. Okay.
Yep.
And this is actually when you cast a spell, not when you. It's not just for cantrip, and it's adding a bonus to that roll. That's really exciting. I'm excited to see how this one works.
Okay.
So that's gonna be pretty sick. Getting those bigger numbers, bonuses early on. One of the most powerful classes in the game, and one that's often dipped, the Warlock, is famous for a 2nd level invocation they get, which allows them to add their charisma but only to a single cantrip, Eldritch Blast. Now, Eldritch Blast, very powerful. It is amazing what a basically heavy crossbow can do, but it's really powerful. If you've played against Warlocks, you've played with Warlocks, Eldritch Blast is incredible. This is a lesser version of that, as you are still Eldritch Blast. You roll multiple times, therefore you're getting that bonus multiple times. But even getting +5 to your Firebolt, effectively that's the same as being roughly 6 levels higher, because it's 5 flat damage is slightly worse than the average of that extra D10 you'd receive.
You've reminded me of something.
Oh no.
Oh no.
What have I done?
This is a little bit of a side tangent, but it's still related. Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, okay, I'm into it. Honestly, we're a Baldur's Gate channel now. You heard it here first.
So, Baldur's Gate 3. Play a Warlock. Pick up the companion that is a Warlock. Both of you get Repelling Blast as one of your invocations.
Oh my god, you're gonna play back badminton.
People back and forth, you play Pog. It's so much fun, and I've wanted to do it. I've wanted to line it up in tabletop at some point that I and somebody else, because I have to be involved because I can't not do this, bat people back and forth with Repelling Blasts. It is...
Silas is really good at shoving, and Laurentius can push as a bonus action.
You guys can play tennis!
They, in fact, can.
I love that. If Mini dies, I'm gonna play a Warlock just so I can do that too. We can all bounce people around in circles.
So,
fun.
just off camera here, we have the final battle that's still ongoing of our last session of Stories to D4. That battle in the apartment where there seems to have been a recent murder and the horrifying discombobulated statues. I want to talk about that one, but first I want to get into our rule of the day. So every Footnotes I try to talk about rules that either we are not a fan of, we're confused by, or rules that people get wrong a lot, fiddly diddly rules. This is one that has been plaguing a certain player of mine who's been thinking about potentially multi-classing at some point. I want to talk about a rule that hasn't come up often, but is the multi-classing requirements. So for every class in 5th edition, there exists a series of requirements, either 1 or 2 ability scores, like strength or dexterity, that you need to have high enough to qualify for that. And now you don't, so let me give the example of Barbarian. Barbarian multi-classing requires 13 strength. This does not mean to be a Barbarian you have to have 13 strength. It means if you want to be Barbarian and another class. So if you're either multi-classing out of or multi-classing into Barb. Victoria, I believe you ran into this issue a little bit at the start of our campaign with your current ability score array.
Yeah, so a lot of decisions had to be made for Ismini to not be a multi-classed character. My rolls were really terrible, really bad. The worst rolls I've rolled, basically, so I had to use a standard array, and that led me to where I am with Ismini.
It was an enhanced standard array,
right,
but still.
But our array that we used,
both of us wound up
we
using.
both ended up using that array, and I was going to do I was going to do a wizard and fighter multi-class.
Sure.
And it didn't feel like, since the fighter's multi-attribute dependent to a large degree, it feels like, I didn't feel like I could put my strength, stats, dex, con, and then also have the int that I wanted, and then also maintain some of the personality of the character. Because something had to give. One of my stats had to be bad. So I didn't have a place. I mean, charisma, but then that felt a little bit weird too.
I will mention, you qualify for fighter.
I do qualify for fighter?
It's dexterity or strength 13.
Okay, so...
But you had talked also about using armor in the past.
Right, I wanted to be an armored wizard. There are options.
Very different. That you need to have a strength of
Right.
If you're going to use heavy armor and you don't have a strength of 15, one of those is going to have to give.
Right, and so there were a lot of different things I tried to wiggle around to try to make that character concept work, and it really just didn't.
I love where she turned out.
I like where she turned out. There are still, and it's not that I have any regrets about my character. I'm very interested to see where she goes. There's some things about the Abjuration subclass that I'm not a big fan of. There's some stuff that I love. There's some stuff that I hate.
Oh, I'm excited. What do you not like? And it's okay. I'm not, there's no downside here. I want to know a little bit more about what don't you like about the Abjuration subclass.
The spell list.
Ah.
So many of the spells require a costly consumed upon use material component.
I think this might be you coming from Bard, which generally has less material components. A lot of
more
wizard spells do.
concentration. So well, here's the thing, right? If you go through at second level, there is one abjuration spell, I believe, in the PHB.
Yeah. Clella had this problem with divination having similarly low numbers for certain spell levels.
Right, and we all know the problems with necromancy, where that can be difficult, and so. I was sitting here like, I know now I've dropped fighter, I'm gonna focus on abjuration and necromancy. Oh, okay, great. Let's check that spell list out. And so I'm butting heads with to cast a 3rd level spell, you need to expend 1,000 gold, basically. I can't remember which spell it was, but there was a spell that I was super interested in.
Are you talking about instant summons?
No. I can.
Oh, we'll pull up the spell a little bit later.
I'll
Not a
spell
problem.
later. But there are definitely some spells on the list that have such a high cost associated with them. And then all wizard subclasses get you can learn spells from your subclass faster and for less money. But there's so few spells on the abjuration list that. It's just one of those things that I love the arcane ward. I love the features there. I just think that the spell list itself, not as bad as necromancy, but similarly faces some problems. Again, abjuration is about protecting and defending, and I would have really wanted to see at some point a higher level spell that did more protection for other people. There's a lot of, I shield myself, I cast mage armor, great. I cast alarms to be told where things are, if somebody's coming into my space, which is why I cast alarm, because it heals my ward. But higher levels, I was like, I'd love to project a shield onto other people and maybe use my reaction, coming from a bard, use my reaction to shield somebody.
Ismini is going to, and Victoria apparently, are going to love the spell Globe of Invulnerability.
I am very excited about that spell specifically.
It is, so I understand that it isn't a melee protective sphere,
right.
but I think it's very core to what your concept sounds
right.
like, what you're really thinking. Of you shall not pass, but only for magic and not for arrows.
And the ward does help with that as well, because
Yes.
coming soon I'll be able to say, Elle's about to get hit, I'll let the ward get hit instead and kind of use it on other people.
That's effectively healing.
It is, to a degree, for sure, effectively healing. It is definitely feels a little bit, I would just love to cast Shield of Faith on somebody. A lot of these shield spells are self-only. So that would be my biggest gripe, is that I just want to see a little bit more in the abjuration domain.
Well, maybe someday there will be some changes there with abjuration. I'd love to do a deep dive into some abjuration spells. We should make a note of that for a little bit later.
Yeah, I have thoughts on every spell.
Oh, I like that. When we have when we have our next where it's just us, we'll do that.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Because I coming from a different kind of full caster, spontaneous full caster, to a prepared full spellcaster, very strange. We've got a lot of thoughts there too.
Now, let's talk about the big fight.
Okay.
You're in the midst of things. 2 sessions in a row, we've ended on these big encounters. This is not by design. There was a bit of surprise there. You surprised me when I wanted to go and visit a blacksmith, and that time with Finjan put us just over the edge here. So you're currently facing off against what is remaining 5 marble statues, these horrible, ugly, disfigured statues where it seems that they've been bent out of shape in strange ways. You're also fighting against a trio of ghosts and a specter, an even more powerful form of intangible undead. There's a lot of people. You're outnumbered more than 2 to 1.
Yeah.
Actually, you're outnumbered 2 to 1.
We
But
were more than 2 to 1 before.
the
We'll
point
hoot and chirp and squawk.
you also, yes, how could I forget your trio of familiars?
Feels so good.
Yosef is, of course, having a good time, far away from danger.
We don't want him to die.
You're
we
low
like
level. What's it? Now, we all know it. Once you've hit level 5 and on, we're going to see some fireballing for this sort of... This whole scenario, you would have destroyed 2/3 of it with a fireball. At low levels, what is this feeling like fighting this many people?
It's really hard.
It's making me regret not taking the spell shaping subclass, so I could just be like, here, I'm gonna blow this up, but my friends don't get hurt.
Evocation Wizard.
Because I don't have, I have an AoE, but no matter where I put it in this room, I have to target somebody with it. It's not just that I pick a point and drop it there, I have to target somebody. And almost anywhere that I put it, I would hit somebody. I think there may be one option for me on the board right now that I could put it where I wouldn't hurt a friend, but it's very hard to be a low-level player, it feels like coming from a world where you have all these AoEs, all these options, multiple attacks too.
You killed a castle at one point.
We did bring down a castle. That was really fun.
Good job, Jake.
Twice, I think, actually.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
True. We did do that twice.
That is fair. More than once. Large stone embattlements were defeated by you. Yeah. Now, you're fighting a collection of, admittedly individually weak statues, and you've also have these ghosts who are able to move through the terrain unimpeded. The challenge has changed a lot.
Yeah.
The action economy is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's about how many swings, how many actions do I get to take versus the enemies.
What do you do? And this is a question for both of you. I had a situation as a dungeon master where I actually had a bit of a struggle. Two of my players made, and I want to be clear, very interesting and reasonable decisions that I, as a dungeon master, knew without if I don't change things behind the screen, these things don't necessarily have an effect that pushes the party closer towards victory in the fight. These being Ililie used her magical flower to test a theory about the specter, and Silas decided to drop his weapon, thinking or not use his weapon, thinking it may not be effective against this sort of enemy. Now, in the case of this battle, we do know that both of those things are a little bit, they weren't effective. What do you think, what do you think as a DM, what you'd like to see happen? And if you had to sit behind the chair, how do you think you'd like to act if you actually, your player does something you know is essentially passing their turn? This is a tough one.
You've sat at my table. That's the problem.
I have been at your table.
I'm a little bit, okay.
Oh,
Again.
Be nice.
Uh-oh.
No, I was gonna say I'm a little bit harsh. Because of the nature of what I was running, the things that I've run have either been children's summer camps or gothic horror, everybody runs screaming and
Those
crying.
are so different.
And they're so different, right? And so in one of them, it's like, you're all at summer camp. Like, you're gonna be fine. Like, you get sent to the nurse's tent. But then the other one is like...
That's what would have happened if we got blacked out. Oh. I didn't know what would happen.
There was no chance of failure.
I only had 9 fingers. My character was traumatized. I don't know what you want from me.
I'm sorry about that.
And here's the thing, right? In that situation, what is funny to me is that in that one session, it was kind of like an out of time thing that happened because in the other campaign, I had just almost killed the 16-year-old boy that was there.
Right. We did a sort of non-canonical
we did a little thing outside
meetup.
of... Because I wanted everybody to play like their child characters or make a child character for it, and so there were a few at the table.
But so you're saying you'd lean in depending on the tone of the set.
Depending on the tone.
Campaign.
And this was something, again, whenever we started playing, my session 0, to a degree, was like, hey, I'm going to go hard on you guys. Like, there are multiple opportunities for TPKs that are written into the modules. This is kind of like... I'm new also, so there was some, not like, I hadn't yet really flexed very many chops and like trying to write my own encounters, so it was a lot of reading out of the book, seeing what they said, kind of going with their guidelines, and it is intended to be I wouldn't say slog, that's not the right connotation.
Curse of Strahd is a slog.
But it's intended to really, it's intended to really kind of like push you. And so for me, it would have been like, okay, if that's gonna be your action for this turn, all right, next person's turn. But that would be me. And there may be things behind it. Like, I felt so guilty swinging at, like, a boy who was already on the ground who had, like, a failed death save. I missed, but I swung. So...
For those of you who don't know the rules for that, when someone has a failed death save, if you were to swing at someone unconscious with one failed death save, and you hit... That is a permanently dead character.
Yeah.
2 failed death saves if you take damage.
That was a decision in like session 5 of my campaign.
Oh, I'll do it.
Yeah, you did it.
Now
he has done it before. But this would be a situation where as a DM, maybe I'd have to sit here and think, okay, like, does it feel good for me to do this where I kind of punish them for it? Like, are they making a stupid decision or you know, I think that some of that context would have to come in. But I'd be inclined to be a little bit harsh, personally.
I agree. I've never DM'd, just throwing that one out.
That's okay. Your feedback's super valuable here because you've been on only this side of the screen.
I think I would also be a little harsher and be like, okay, use your turn. Interesting choice. That's not gonna help you at all.
Right. And that
The shade.
well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. As a player, if you know that if you catch that you've done something stupid and you're sitting there like, oh, great.
Yes, Robert, you put the wig on and pass your turn. Moving on.
If you do that, as a player, there's that moment of expectation at certain tables. And this isn't a bad thing. At certain tables, we're like, oh no. Because I've, as a player, done very dumb things and gotten punished for it. And we've established that you can do dumb things, you know?
Absolutely.
And get punished for it. And there's been times where I've made dumb decisions almost as a mistake. Like, maybe my understanding was incorrect.
Grease fire.
Okay, yes, I set a mansion on fire.
Oh, gosh. Horrible. Grease fire. Oh,
Which
my gosh.
Which grease fire?
That's why it happened twice.
Yeah. But that's, as a player, if we already have established this situation where I do dumb things and the game plays out and people keep making decisions, intelligent people would see me make a mistake and go and use that to their advantage.
So this decision, can you read the verdict my players have asked for me, Amanda?
Harsh.
Harsh was the decision.
Well, it's
very useful to know.
It's what's believable, right? Like,
we're dealing with ghosts and statues that are very cruelly formed. You know, you pick a dumb decision to not attack anything. You kind of expect to be badly hurt.
Maybe the bears don't know to attack the wizard, but the bandits probably would. You know? So there's some of that too.
Right.
As you're running these encounters and you're going through these situations, as a DM, it's like, I've had fights where I'm like, whoever's closest to my enemy, that's who I'm attacking. So I'm gonna swing at the person that's next to me. If they get away, then I'm gonna walk up and swing at the next person. So there's like no decision being made. Maybe unintelligent undead, or maybe you've got more intelligent monsters that are like, okay, go for the people that are doing these things. If people aren't engaging, I won't engage with them, and that levels of intelligence will vary. I don't mean say be blanket harsh and punish every mistake your players make, but I'm saying if you've got multiple players that are doing nothing with their turns in a fight. I truly thought that he was going to make me pass my turn as well. I thought it was going to be 3 players. So, really, it was about to be almost a full round of combat, like where 3 out of 5 PCs didn't do anything.
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry. Am I allowed to say who the person in chat is? Is that okay, Victoria?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can say it.
One of our the VIP from earlier, of course, our dear Victoria's father said something wonderful, and I don't know for certain if he is aware of this story.
He knows the story.
Oh, perfect.
He knows the story.
May I quickly tell this?
Please tell the story.
During a wondrous battle of a tournament where these players were navigating through a forest with these challenges that had been put in there by the tournament organizers, Victoria saw a group of these goblins, and these goblins were sort of wearing like strange ceremonial clothes. They looked a little bit different. But without asking for any sort of checks, what do I see specifically? Can I detect any magic? Her decision as a mostly non-violent player character was to go introduce herself how?
Okay. For clarification, I was...
Oh, no. How did you introduce yourself?
I cast daylight on myself to come down as a shining beacon because I was a 4-year-old Aarakocra celestial druid, so I turned myself into a constellation and came down as sunlight because I wanted to be very beautiful and friendly looking and angelic.
Now, there was one problem, and now, Amanda, would you like to explain what let's say a status effect or a condition that those goblins had?
They were vampires.
They were vampires. And as such, when you have a group of vampires exposed to daylight, as they look up and see this beautiful, majestic creature glowing with starlight and the very wisps of the cosmos, and the sunlight touches their skin as they begin to boil alive. I believe was what I said. I think I quoted that correctly. Was that right?
Sounds about right. It was possibly one of my most embarrassing moments.
You were so mortified.
It was really embarrassing, and there was nothing I could do to prevent it at that point. I had already made all of these decisions that put me in a situation where my child character, Bird, had just blown up a large group of people, and it was an act.
You wanted to end you were like, I think we can solve this one without violence.
And
then you lit them on fire.
And it was rough.
Your players will do dumb things.
Your
I went
players
through
will do
an
dumb
artifact sword.
You threw a legendary artifact sword into the...
Our last session, actually, I believe your last turn
Your last turn is your
as
character.
Jeswyn Lacoth, legendary hero of the Guardians, was to throw her sword at the final boss.
In my defense, we were floating in weird space and I could not reach the boss. And he was almost dead. And I said, the only thing I have that could hit that is my sword to throw it.
I think it was a disadvantage because you were throwing something that's not meant as a ranged weapon, but you rolled high and rolled like a 2. It was very, very bad. And that sword fell down to the planet below, and we still have not found it.
I want to
At
find
least
Caroline
they
so
haven't.
badly.
Right, but our PCs currently have no reason to go try to look for that sword, so what I mean.
Yeah.
But we will make dumb decisions.
Because we're very low on time, I have just one really quick bit of D&D tabletop news that I want to mention, and then sort of a closing announcement here. So, if you don't know, if you've been following us and you don't know who Toffee Plays is yet, what are you doing? We've been talking about him. Toffee's absolutely fantastic, a fellow DM who's just stolen my heart. He plays over on his Twitch channel as well, which we have linked on our Twitter if you want to go check him out.
It's Toffee Plays on Twitch.
It is Toffee Plays on Twitch.
All one word, all lowercase.
They're playing the Lost Mines. Now, if you don't know anything about the Lost Mines of Fandelver and you don't want spoilers, cover your ears for just a second. Toffee and his group just recently faced off with Venomfang, the massive green dragon, and, in our setting, a dear friend.
A dear friend, close companion, savior of hundreds
I will
of
say this.
thousands of lives.
A little different, just a little different than our version of Venomfang. I don't think their Venomfang will become the party's Vegeta, as
One of
it
our
were.
closest allies.
Closest allies.
Sacrificed himself.
Sacrificed
for the party.
himself. We all sobbed as he died.
Tried to heal him and
I
failed.
I went to bed after that session.
It was bad.
Session
Victoria
what,
didn't
like-
talk to me for a while until the next day. But
Our
so,
dear
I highly
friend
recommend
Venomfang.
if you want to go see a group face some really interesting challenges and also get to see someone playing through one of the most beloved modules, I really recommend going and checking them out. Is there anything else before I go to my final announcements here?
No.
I've got nothing.
Cool. I don't want to hear from them anyways. Kidding. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us for this week's Footnotes. I'm sure we'll have you again next year. I also am really hoping that we get the appearance of our behind the scenes, our man behind the scenes, man in the chair, Alex. I'd love to see him on here pretty soon. I think he might be watching. Maybe, maybe not. But thank you all so much for joining us for this week's Footnotes. We really appreciate you coming by. And hey, if you have Amazon Prime or if you're able to support us, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to us here on our Twitch. Your contributions here help us get new miniatures. I'm hoping to place some orders for some Hero Forge miniatures for a future boss I'd love you to run into. Like I said, all of those things help support us getting things like miniatures, cameras, equipment, just ways, and all the other ways for me to hurt my players in a fantasy realm.
And subscribers or not, you can join us on our Discord. Come chat, hang out with us, post in the meme channel, the most active channel there.
It is absolutely the most. If you want to see our dog Coco mean mugging the camera, that is the prime location for that sort of.
I'm going to
content.
start a thread of every session she lays in some bizarre way, and I really want to find a place to put it.
Oh, she's asleep. We might have to check if she's perished away, but it's okay. You have to wait until next week to find out.
She's fine.
Yes, our Discord is available.
My heels will be on there later.
The picture.
Yeah, the picture of the
Please
minis.
remind me after the session.
We're going to have more
And-
close-ups.
We'll see you this Friday and see how these folks handle a bunch of ghosts and specters. Have a wonderful weekend and happy holidays.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.